Welcome back. Let's continue with the assessment of President Tinubu's 2 years in office. And this time we're looking at politics. As you're aware, just 2 years into his first term, the president has expressed his desire to go for a second term following his endorsement now by the All Progressives Congress APC. Tinubu's endorsement came amid a gale of defections with elected officials switching allegiance to the ruling APC. In the Senate, the APC now controls 64 of the 109 seats after several senators crossed the carpet to the ruling party. Now, of course, it's the same story in the House of Representatives as well, where we've seen quite a number now of members of the opposition defect now to the ruling APC. The situation, of course, has triggered fears that Nigeria is gradually slipping into a one-party state. The presidency and the ruling party have, though, dismissed those fears. Now, the current economic and political situation in Nigeria has provoked opposition political parties to drive the idea of a coalition to remove the Tinubu government from power in 2027. Joining me now to discuss this further is a political affairs analyst, Dr. Farouk Bibi Farouk, who joins us from Cairo in Egypt. And, of course, joining us from the studio here in Lagos is Nelson Ekujimi, who is also a political affairs analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. But let me start with you, Dr. Farouk Bibi Farouk. What would be your overall assessment, especially on the political side now, of the Tinubu administration over the past 2 years?
Well, alhamdulillah, I think what we can say is we thank God that there is still democracy and it is an ongoing thing. But certainly we are taking some traditions that do not really impact on our development and are of no use to us, especially looking at deciding that the midterm is even an important thing to us. Normally, midterms are times when there are midterm elections, that's maybe election to legislative houses, in which certain policies of government are checked through either voters' apathy or voters' rejection or confirmation. We don't have that scenario in Nigeria. We are not going through any ballot process, but we seem to be interested in the midterm jamboree. The people in the presidency and some state governors are paying a lot to get people to talk on behalf of the government in good terms, while a lot of people in opposition are preparing to go against everything government. And I personally think it is too early to assess a government in 2 years in a situation where Nigeria is where there is virtually has never been anything on the real structures on the ground attaining any development. I think it is too early. If you assess a government after 4 years, you might not even get much, but you might get a good direction, which is what we lacked in the other governments. So I think we can talk about it politically and enjoy the ride, but it contributes very little to what might happen 2027. Of course, it was said, the party of Tinubu will present Tinubu, and it is natural, almost conventional that those in power should get the endorsement of their own parties unless something seriously has happened.
Now, you look at... Okay, sorry to interject you, but I mean, you're quite right. I mean, on the issue of certain things coming too early, I mean, that's the way I feel as well, especially with the issue of this endorsement now. And I have to ask you this. Do you think it was too early for his party to, come forward with this issue of endorsing him for a second term when, in fact, even at the very time that endorsement happened, he had not completed 2 years, so at least a few days or weeks to 2 years. Do you think the party was probably pushed by the opposition to do that, or what's your take on that?
Well, I think we're playing politics of great sycophancy, and it has become a good beneficial industry to a lot of people because the leaders are not properly ever in touch with the people. So whoever decides they have come in between and are promoting a position that the leader likes, he opens up for them. He makes things available to them. He makes positions available to them, appointments, contracts, and even director benefits. So since that is the situation, and virtually most of the people, you can say 95% of the people in politics today are doing it for those benefits, you would find that they are in a hurry to find any reason to create a party, Owambe for the president, Owambe for the ruling party, to say things that the party and the president might easily come into. The political parties themselves have just become institutions for sycophancy to get benefits, especially personal benefits. And this is both in the ruling parties and in the opposition parties. So democracy has been really transformed into something a bit different from what it is in other places in Nigeria. Nigerian democracy is about immediate benefit to self. There is no conditional issues of nationalism, of attaining development, of getting stability, of making sure that there is freedom and liberties. It's just about whoever can play the democracy game can go home with a lot of benefits.
All right, let me come to you, Nelson. What's your own take, especially, generally your assessment of the past 2 years? You think it's too early to really do that assessment, as Dr. Farouk has said, and the issue of this endorsement coming quite early into his first 4-year term?
Well, thank you very much. I don't think assessing the government in 2 years is too early. Even if it's possible, it will keep the government on its toes and make the government get feedback from the citizenry if we assess the government, even if it is yearly, because it's a 4-year term. And, even as students, when we went to school, I mean the tertiary institution, we always have a semester examination. You spend year one, first semester and second semester. So if we do a periodic assessment of the performance of government or those who we have elected into office, it will enable them to, also be able to keep track of what they have promised the people, and where lacuna are observed, they will quickly want to make amends so as to endear themselves to the people for the next election if that administration still has the opportunity of vying for another term. So I don't think it is out of place or that 2 years assessment is too early. No, it's just for us to be able to keep track of where we want to be.
And it's not as if there's nothing to assess.
Yes, so where we were, what has been our journey, where are we now, where are we looking forward to. Then talking about endorsements, the endorsement, well, politicians in their natural, coven are people who are always interested in self-preservation. And like we always see, self-preservation is the first law of humanity. So if politicians are coming out to endorse themselves right now, well, it is in their culture. But ordinarily, you expect that everybody for now should have been fixated on governance, on the condition of the people. Because we all know that according to our constitution, there's a time frame that the electoral umpire is permitted by law to blow the whistle when electioneering can start. But vintage politicians, being who they are, even immediately before the previous election has ended, they're already campaigning, they're already cross-carpeting, they're already looking for alliances, because all they are interested in is personal, comfort. So endorsement, being that is as it may, it's only to show you how the mindset or is a reflection of the thinking of the party. It does not really have a total, reflection on the generality of the people. It is just to tell you the direction a political party is going. And if a political party has decided that this is what we want to do, well, it will, the people themselves will be the mirror with which they will be measured. And if they are more interested in politicking than actual issues that affect the people, when they come, when election time comes, some persons will, remind them that, look, I don't think you people are serious enough. You have been, fixated on some other things rather than the welfare of the people or the condition of the people. So for me, endorsement does not really matter. It's just like the politicians having fun in their natural element. So endorsement is allowed so long as it's an action that does not in any way violate either the Constitution or the Electoral Act.
Doc, you look at the politics, the political environment in the country today, characterized by this wave of defection. Of course, it's not the first time we've seen defections of this nature. I mean, we saw it in the past, but some people would say the current wave of defection we're having, it's really huge, where governors are defecting, and some governors are coming out openly to say they're going to do so, as we've seen with the case of the Akwa Ibom State governor. And even big wigs in the opposition party, the PDP, are not fully committed. They are not fully committed to the party. And then these concerns being raised about the country becoming a one-party state, even though the presidency and the APC have dismissed that. I mean, you look at the political environment generally over the past 2 years. What would be your assessment?
Well, I think there is a huge character deficiency the political setup in Nigeria's political system. And most of the people who join politics or play the game of politics do so for just those personal benefits, not because of their love for country or love for development or the thought of the future of their children and the children after their children. They just do these things because they come after immediate benefits. And so that's why you find that these issues of people changing ideologies, changing positions, it's quite easy and acceptable. There is a character deficiency. Only a person with very low character can take a position, and for the benefit of little nothing or nothing, change that position every day. You won't want to even deal with that person in any other aspect of life, not to talk of leadership. But this is what has become the main character of Nigerian politicians. So long as there is a government and resources in a particular position, everybody wants to get in there. Even when they oppose, they do not oppose on principles, on ideologies, on methods of governance. So they oppose to be recognized as a position so that there will be something provided for opposition by those in power. So the whole idea is taking from government consistently and not looking at the welfare of the people, the nation, and the direction. So when there is no ideology around that, then defection is a very simple thing. It's just like people discussing the beer parlor. They don't have any business with other people but bottles of beer.
And you look at the National Assembly over the past 2 years. How would you assess its performance?
Well, it's supposed to be a lapdog, and it has become better than that. It was created right from day one to make sure that it became the lapdog of the presidency from the beginning. But now it is even doing much better. They are howling much better than the publicity units of the presidency. They have no concern about the constituencies. They are interested in what comes out from their decisions, both in the process of checking government, in the process of dealing with those in charge. This was a character that was very palpable, but at the lower levels. Since 1999, we have not had a state assembly that had any balls. Now the National Assembly has been taken over. It's very clear. They lost it from the last government, the last 8 years of Buhari. They decided that it was not Nigeria that was their problem. It was which president and how the president deals with them. In fact, in spite of Buhari's lukewarm attitude towards owning the legislature went to be a lapdog to the executive. And of course, this more effective system of Tinubu, effective politics of Tinubu, I'll put it, they are already in the pockets of the government, and it's not just the legislature. Now, even the judiciary, you might not find a lot of independence in the judiciary. So, I do not see it turning into a one-party state or a dictatorship. Nigeria is too homogeneous to just easily become a dictatorship or one-party state. I try to look at it as people with the same character ganging up in one place, and probably, if we are lucky, those who are opponents of those characters might find themselves, whether they like it or not, on an opposition stage. In the democracy, there will always be at least two platforms. And so I'm happy if everybody who has the character of Tinubu and his people get together in one platform. And probably those who cannot live with that and believe in the country and want to make a change in the country find themselves in another platform. And let's see what Nigerians make of it.
I get you. Nelson, let me get your take on this. I mean, clearly, as you heard Dr. Farouk, Bibi Farouk say that he doesn't believe that, Nigeria is gravitating towards a one-party state. And so let me get your take on that, and especially with the issue of his your assessment now on the performance of the National Assembly.
Well, like he has rightly said, I agree absolutely that Nigeria is not in any way gravitating towards a one-party state. Those who are mounting it are only embarking on a wild goose campaign of blackmail and calumny, just because some persons have left the party. And you look at the state of our democracy today, really I agree that it has degenerated. And why has it degenerated? It's because we lack a viral opposition. The opposition today is in tatters. And that explains why anybody can be quick enough to say members of the opposition are even non-existent. And looking at the National Assembly, I beg to disagree. The National Assembly, as far as I'm concerned, is peopled by men of intellect, men who know their onions. And if persons have been voted into the National Assembly to perform legislative functions, that does not in any way make them to be antagonistic to the executive, because the executive and the legislature are supposed to work together to deliver on the dividends of democracy to the people. But where people find that the legislature and the executive are on the same page, they tend to call them maybe in Dr. Farouk, or what is name?
Dr. Farouk.
They call them a lapdog, or they call them rubber stamp. I'm sure a lot of persons must have been very happy when we had the 9th legislature under former President Muhammadu Buhari, where the legislature led by Senate President Bukola Saraki never, was always at loggerheads with the executive, even with things, with policies, with programs that will impact meaningfully on the lives of the people. So we are in a society where the only time people believe progress can only be made is when people are at war. I disagree absolutely. The National Assembly, as constituted today, are men and women who have made their mark in their various chosen fields. And we can see it in the debate, in the discussions in the House with regards to governance. So even when Mr. President takes his bills to the House, it is expected that in a democracy, there's nothing wrong in the president lobbying members of his party. Ordinarily, in a democracy, a ruling party is supposed, as the executive arm of government, whenever she wants to, introduce any policy bills or what have you that requires legislative consideration, it's expected, to first and foremost convoke, a meeting of its members in the House and make them be on the same page, so that when they get to the House, you expect that the members will vote along that party line, while the opposition can do otherwise. But because today the opposition does not exist, it is almost virtually non-existent. Since the 2023 general presidential election, you can see that the PDP has refused to mend from the crisis that has torn it apart. And, it is getting worse. Same for the Labour Party that is also emerged in crisis. So
literally what you're saying is that what is actually lacking in the National Assembly is a viral opposition.
It's a viral, absolutely, yes.
Okay, I get that point. But we just have to round off because we're out of time. But very quickly now, Dr. Bibi Farouk, if you were setting the agenda for the president, what exactly would that be? I mean, to set the agenda for the next 2 years.
I still insist that it is not the structures responsible for development do not exist. So if anybody is serious about running a country, he needs to now reassess the structures. What is our relationship with borrowing and IMF? What is our relationship with foreign countries and France in particular? What is the manufacturing? Where is manufacturing? Where is indigenous technology? Where is education? What are we developing? What's our focus? What are we trying to be? What is our ambition? How are we carrying the people along with that? Now that it is not part of Nigerian political space, it is not in the Nigerian political space, and people like Tinubu and their character are very good at the other aspects where these things do not exist. So there's very little to advise the president, actually, if he is not going to restructure his thinking and come back to sit down and say, I'm an African leader from a third world underdeveloped or undeveloped country with special relationships of bullying and underdevelopment with other countries, and I need to get my people out of that. It is either that or they remain in slavery. And if the choice is to do that, then you can advise him to do that. If he's not going to do that, I tell you the difference between Buhari from Shagari, we have had only one or two presidents that Eradua tried to look at it differently. He didn't take long, but almost is the same trajectory. And that's why I say, if you take 4 years and make a small assessment and say, okay, these are the little things we have gotten in this trajectory, but it's not a trajectory that is going to take us out of the woods at all. So it's very difficult to advise. Right. Sorry.
Nelson, what would be your own, what agenda would you set for the government? What exactly would you want to see going forward?
Going forward, the agenda I would like to set for the government is that the necessary economic re-engineering that the government has put in place and several other measures have to be monitored to ensure that they are delivering on their, on the mission statement of those agenda. You look at agriculture, for example, you look at the PIA bill, the PIA law that is in place today. How are we enforcing the PIA in the petroleum industry? You look at the government transition of the economy from import dependence to the Made in Nigeria policy that Mr. President has propagated. I think the government needs to put in place machinery to ensure strict compliance, majorly by the state actors. And that will, drive a message to the non-state actors who are the citizens that, look, this is the way to go. This is the only way, to ensure that our country becomes greater, like we always say, pray and wish that it could be.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Dr. Farouk, Bibi Farouk, joined us, of course, from Cairo. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And Nelson Ekujimi, here in the studio, political affairs analyst, thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show. Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.